It's been a while, and it's probably gonna be a while for the next time. It's been a while since the last time I started streaming. It's probably gonna be a while before I start next time, because just uni is kind of kicking my ass a little bit. Yeah, it's just finals month. The semester ends for me at the start of December, so until I have that done, I'm gonna have a lot of assignments and other stuff. Not a great time. In fact, the biggest reason I'm streaming right now is so that I can make progress in one of those assignments. If I didn't have something that, you know, I needed to focus on, I probably wouldn't even be streaming. Anyway, hi. How are you all doing? I was just getting myself some coffee so that I can actually be awake during this. I'm gonna be coding in Unity. I'm gonna be coding on that game that I think I showed you last time. I forget. Yeah, I did. I remember because I did the thumbnail. Well, I did make some progress on it off stream during one of the classes, but today we're going to hopefully get some good progress going. We'll see about that. We'll see about that. So, just give me 1 second. I'm gonna change the scene. Whoop. Yeah, okay. So, yeah. Oh, hey, Strawberry. Sadly, I'm not going to work on the thing that I want to work on, because instead I have homework to do. So, which I assume is also the thing that you would like me to work on, because it's the thing that we're doing together. Sorry about that. How have you been, though? Did you manage to find the spider to kill it? Actually, maybe I shouldn't have reminded you of that. Anyway, yeah. Oh, it's just going to have you on the background. Alright, thank you. Hello. I'll do my best. Okay, so just to sort of update on what I did while I wasn't on stream, you may notice that there are 2 bars right now, and one of them is a health bar. Yeah, I just basically copied and pasted the system for the charge bar for a health bar. Then I made a whole health thing, but then I realized that the health bar pretty much works exactly the same way as the charge bar, so I instead made a base class called Vitals, and then made the charge bar, modified the charge bar, and created the health bar. Or rather, the charge and the health stat, because the bar is just the bar, so that they could both inherit from that base class. And that's basically all I did. Honestly, I haven't made much progress because of other assignments. 1 second. So the idea is that right now we're going to be able to make some better progress. So here's some good news about this project, though. Give me 1 second. Yeah, this is some good news about this project, though, is that I asked the professor that is holding this class, and he said that for the assignment, for the grading, and for the judging, the focus is going to be a lot more on technical ability than on actual game design, which means that I don't have to make this look pretty or play nice if I can make many interconnected game systems that just communicate with each other and work flawlessly. That's going to go a better way towards my grade, and luckily that's the part that I'm good at. I don't like to think that I'm decent at game design, but I definitely don't have as much practice on it. So yeah, that's what we're gonna be trying to do. So basically, we want to implement features, feature creep, be damned, we don't care. Another thing that I did was I found out that the reason this line renderer works in an unexpected way the reason it works with global positions. So even if you move its, you know, actual position, the line itself doesn't move. The reason it uses global coordinates is because it has a variable that does that, like a check mark. You just change it to check mark and then it works the way I expected, which like I already taught it to be this way, so I don't get to play with that now, but I mean, boy, that would have been good to know. Like, that just makes sense, doesn't it? Anyway, yeah. That's about all I did for progress. Honestly, that class is very short. I don't have a lot of time to just make progress on it. It's a lot easier to just not even bother. Right. So let's see what should I do today? Let's see. Okay, let's just take stock. Where's the game at? Right, we're here. We have the health bar. The health bar does nothing. This game is ugly as sin, by the way. But, you know, that's obviously... Okay, so yeah, that's the next feature that I want to implement. This, like, you stand in the charging zone and the more charge you have, which this probably should be yellow, right, shouldn't it? We're gonna make this look pretty later, but I feel like if it's green, I'm just gonna forget. Yeah, that makes more sense, right? So the more charge you have, the more rapidly you shoot. And so you want to stay inside the area and connect to this so that it charges you. And the idea is that the reason you don't want to stay charged all the time is, well, one, freedom of movement, obviously. But second, that if you're at full charge for too long, you will overload, right? That's sort of the idea. So we need to implement that. The good thing is that it's easy because this overload is going to be like the same as the life, the health, and the charge, right? So it's going to be just another bar. Now this bar we're gonna place a little bit differently, but it's just the same principle. So let's put it like, let's create another bar right here. I'm gonna put it here. We're gonna call it the overload meter, and then this overload meter is going to be just, you know, shorter, like this, and going to be like here, right, like right after the normal charge. And then we're gonna make it so that this this background is a different color, so it's going to be like, you know, red, right? And the idea is like this. And the idea is when this fails, it you become unable to shoot because you're overloaded, right? So that is just the visual element, but we also need to like create code so that it actually hooks up to the bar. The good thing is that because I made a base class, that should be pretty easy to do. Over here is script overload. Yep. And it's been created. I tell you, man, I wish I wasn't using Unity. I asked the professor whether I could do this using Godot, because the class is a programming class, right? You program in Godot. And in any game engine, you program. It's just programming. It's the same. The syntax is different. The programming is the same, right? If it were specifically a class in Unity, that would be one thing. But nah, it just wasn't happening. It just didn't let me. Which I don't know. I don't like that. I think that's a bit short-sighted, to be honest. But what are you gonna do? I'm using them for college. You just have to deal with it. Alright, there we go. So we have this overload script, and this is going to be based on gonna be basically the same as the player charge. Well, it has to be hooked to the player charge too. So yeah. So basically like this. So yeah, this is an overload. And it inherits from the vitals, so everything that the vitals do by default, this will do too. It needs to know who the player charge is, because you know you only overload when the player charge is at maximum, so it needs to be able to access that info. Charge. Just charge. Then it doesn't need this dictionary, and it doesn't need to begin a charge or to end a charge. So yeah, so we need to go to the vitals and check how that works so that I know how to use this. It's going to... Alright, the fill speed, that's what we want to modify. So yeah, we're going to have two parameters that are going to be serialize field floats, and these two floats are going to be overload overload charge, no, basically how much it's going to go up, right? So build speed, no, not build speed, I don't like that name. Just increase rate of increasement, right? Increase rate, and then the rate at which it decreases, decrease rate, right? And so like that, right? And so we have to make it so that does this clamp the thing on its own? Yeah, it does. So I just have to supply the speed. Okay, so if I go to, I create a fixed update function. That means that I'm gonna need to override it, aren't I? How did you do that? I always forget. I think it was like I had to mark it as virtual. No, I'm not gonna guess this. I'm not gonna guess this. I'm going to actually look it up. Google, how do you C# function as virtual and then override? I know that it's the virtual keyword, but I forget exactly how it's used. In C#, okay, let's show it. In C# you declare a method as virtual in the base class using the virtual keyword, allowing to be overridden in a derived class with the override keyword. So public virtual void, then public override void. Okay. I assume that it can be private though. So let's just try virtual void, and then here override void. And how do I make sure to execute the parent then? No, I know what it is. Don't, that's not. How do I execute the parent method from an override function? Parents display method, you then do the override. Oh, super. Yeah, okay, that's how you do it. Is it? Yeah, it is. Okay, so it's super and then the name of the function, right? So super is how you access. Okay, so super point fixed update, right? But before that, we have to like change. We have to check the charge. Let's call it the charge script, just because that's a bit clearer. So we want to check the charge script. We want to check within it the player charge, I think it is. Yep. We want to check within it the. Well, it's a vital, so we want to check the current and the max, and we want to check if the current is equal to the max. So if this is maxed out, so if charge script current equals charge script max, I'm gonna get an access error, and then I want to change the fill speed to be increase rate, otherwise make it decrease rate. And then call fixed update. Right, and this should create a bar that itself fills up when the charge is full, but then slowly decreases when it is not, right? The idea is that this would increase and decrease at a different speed, so the permissiveness is different, so that's why it's a separate bar. So you can wait long enough that your charge is just completely empty, but like your overload might still take a while. So no matter what, you don't want to push it with this one. Virtual or abstract members cannot be private. Okay, can they be internal though? Because I don't see why anything else should be calling you. Alright, and that is in overload fixed update. Okay, so if this is right, so if this is I shouldn't alt tab, that shows up on my main screen. This is internal. I don't have anything there, but you know, someday I might. Internal, right, so this is internal, and then I would have to make this internal as well. Okay, and then attribute header is not valid. Yeah, that's because there's no variable here. There we go. Yeah, that's what I thought. Inaccessible due to its protection level. Okay, let's just... this should be... Well, they're being accessed from a different method outside of it, so they shouldn't be, like, internal. They should be, like, public. But... Actually, what does protected do? I think protected is what I want, but I'm not sure. Hey Google, what does the protected keyword do in C#? The protected keyword is an access modifier that allows members to be accessible only within the class where they are defined and in the derived classes. I don't think that's what I want. No, I'm gonna need to just do a public with a private set. Public, but get private set. I think that's how you write that. Well, actually, why am I guessing? I have it here in like a singleton, probably. I think. Do I have it in a singleton? Should be the camera controller. Yeah, get semicolon private set semicolon. Okay, and then without the semicolon outside. Okay. So like this. And then the same thing to max. So like this. Wait, hold on. Are those two separate statements? Is that how that works? Vitals 9. I'll tell you what, I don't actually need this, so... Right, and then it has to be public, I forgot that. The increase rate does not exist, okay. Increase rate where? In overload 15. Okay, that's just 1. In overload 19, name super does not exist. Okay, so I've been lied to. Google, how dare you? How do I call the method in the parent class from within the child class C#? I thought the super seemed wrong. Okay, so .NET, my method, this update, okay. Child class, this, in the child load data, I want to be able to set the current row variable of the parent and call the my method function. How do I do this? Yeah, how about you answer the question? Base? Like this? Well, that at least compiled. Right, I haven't set any of the variables for this shit. Okay, so this charge meter, so this overload meter, no, not the overload meter. I have to add the script to the player, which is the overload. Here. And then I tell the script that this is the meter that it's using. Okay. Yes, I know it's public, but I want to hide it in the inspector. Also, the parameters need to... Like, this header... No, this header should apply to only one of the variables, so actually I should define them separately. Area, lies, field, load, decrease rate, semicolon. Wait, so... Why am I still seeing you? Stupid, yeah. This one also needs to be... Detected makes it show in the inspector? Oh no, it's because I had it as serialized. Why did I have it as serialized? I probably was just testing it. It should not be serialized, that's set through the code. What's inside of my coffee? There's something weird inside of my coffee. Some sort of goop. Oh god, I don't want to think too hard about it. I just drank all that. Right, let's see. The charge script is the one that the player has, obviously. The increase rate, let's make it something like 10, and the decrease rate something like 1, like it should be really slow. I'm also realizing max should be visible. Why is it not? Is it because the set is private? This is because the set is private, right? Guess I'll just keep it public then. Oh no, it's because the... Oh yeah, it's serialized field, so why is it not showing? I serialized it, it should be there. It's because the set is private, huh? Well, I didn't think that that applied to the inspector. Okay, never mind, then just keep it public then. So for the overload, I'm still in debug mode. So for the overload, yeah, I probably want a max of like 10, right? Let's say 20. So it fills in 2 seconds, but it takes 20 seconds for it to empty fully. So you have only maximum 2 seconds of shooting at max capacity. Okay, not only is it somehow mysteriously 100% full, it also seems to have broken my charge. Oh, yeah, okay. Because my charge should be at 100. Yeah, and probably gets initialized at the beginning too. Wait a minute. Excuse me? What? Oh, I didn't finish implementing this. This is not actually inheriting from vitals yet. Oh, okay, we'll leave that for later. see. Okay. But the overload, the charge seems to be constantly at full, and I have no idea why. Charge. Charge, charge. What's up with you? Your current is at 100. And why may that be? Okay, delete the thing that I needed to keep set. Yeah, this needed to stay public. Ah, man, I really fucked it all up with the scope of these things. No, this one needs to be public because I need to set it from the inspector because this is the initial fill speed. Or the default, really. It's also good for debug. The current should be changeable. Like that's a thing that should just leave you, right? That should just be set through the code. Yeah, and then this one is supposed to be like -5, I think I set it to. No, it was way faster than that. Let's see, maybe I can remember it from looking at my recall. I had set it to -5? That doesn't seem right. Oh, because I kept it at 10. It was 10 and then -5. That's why I was remembering that number. Yeah, that's more like it. Yeah, and then the overload doesn't seem to be working. It seems to be always full for some reason. So let's see what that's about. You are at max 20, current 20. Increase rate is 10, decrease rate is 1. Oh, there's your error. Decrease rate should be -1. But that makes the name a bit unintuitive, so let's just leave it as 1 and have it so that the code subtracts rather than adds. So like this. Just lexically, it makes more sense if the decrease rate is a positive number. Because it's the rate of decreasing, you know? Right. And the other thing is that for this one in particular, even though vitals usually starts at max, this one in particular I want to start at 0. So we're gonna override it completely. So void, so internal virtual, and then void internal override, and then the only difference, it's the same except this is 0. And that should work, right? What do you mean? Okay, so you can save this. Vitals isn't accessible due to its protection level. Current. What do you mean? Current is public. Oh, because it's a private set. Okay, never fucking mind about that. Are actually internal. Yeah, and Vitals bar isn't accessible due to its protection level. So this one also should be internal. Okay, there we go. Back to normal. And yeah, so when you fill the charge bar, the overload begins filling, and then when you stop charging, the overload starts emptying, but it's very slow. So you have to be careful about pushing it. That's the idea anyway, right? You're gonna have to be constantly babysitting that. But obviously you want to play it really close because that's where your shoot rate is the highest, right? And so the idea is when that fills, you just stop shooting for like 5 seconds or something. Like 5 seconds might be too much, but like 2 seconds, right? For a certain amount of time, and then that'll and you just can't charge anymore for that time, right? And so that's sort of your punishment for overfilling. Oh man, I hate this project. I just hate working in Unity. I'm just seeing the light and I want to go back to it. So how should I handle the overload though? Because the problem is I need to affect a whole bunch of different things, right? So the ideal would be an observer, right? So something in the player that is looking for that. And knows to react to it, right? So if that's the case, I might as well just create another script for it. That's because it's gonna need to disable and enable a bunch of stuff, right? It's gonna need to enable and disable the movement, the shooting. Maybe it should keep the movement, but it's gonna need to disable the other stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna need a script that is dedicated to that, I think. Overload observer. Observer, yes. And so and this. So this is going to need a reference to that overload script, right? Obviously, it's going to need to know who it's supposed to watch. So, and then it's going to need to react. But let's first just make sure that it can watch it properly. So, void update should probably be physics. So no, it should be update. Void update. Then from here, it should be checking the overload script. Should it be checking it every frame? That doesn't feel good. That feels like it's opposite, contrary to what an observer should do, right? I don't want to do a Unity event. Let me just double check something. What's like the usual way that they implement this? Software design, software engineer, observer pattern is a software design pattern in which an object called the subject, also known as the event source or event stream, maintains a list of its dependents called observers, also known as event sinks, and automatically notifies them of any state changes, typically by calling one of their methods. To do that? Like, do I want to go through the trouble of doing that? Because it will be easy to check every frame. Like, it's less efficient. Obviously, it doesn't matter for this performance. For a game like this, performance is not going to be a bottleneck. But at the same time, this is for a programming homework where I do want to show off technical little things like that. But it's not like I'm hurting for grades. It's a pain in the ass. So really the issue is it going to be useful later? And I think it is. I think it is. Because if I have an animator that works off of it, like a little animation that wants to do something, then it's a good thing if that animation has a thing that it can hook up to, right? Without having to write a whole script that is purely dedicated to that. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna need a refresher on how to do Unity events. See, that's the thing in Godot, this shit will be easy. It will just be a signal that's already part of the thing. Right, okay. So, yeah, so the overload is going to need to know about Unity events. Although I don't need this because this was for the list, so you can go. Then I create the event. Where is that? Yeah, like this. Unity event named overload. On overload. Let's call that on overload. The event. And then actually that's not necessary because this is handled through the inspector actually. On overload, and then this on overload is going to invoke itself whenever it's gonna wait until this happens, and then it's going to check, and if current equals max, then on overload. Now here's the issue, is that it's going to invoke this every frame when we are at max. So we may not want to do that, right? But if that's the case, then I think that what we want to do more than this is make sure that it empties immediately when overload happens, right? So when overload happens, it's going to do this, and then it's also going to set itself to 0, right? And that way it only calls it once, and then it's done, right? We need to charge all the way up, and that's not going to happen because the overload process is going to involve preventing that from being possible. So yeah, when overload, you invoke this, and then set yourself to 0. So current equals 0. Yeah, current equals 0. That's not a comparison, that's an assignment. Right, and then all I need to do is take this observer and say this a bit silly actually. No, it's not actually. I should not call it the overload observer though. This should be the overload overload sequence, because it's the sequence of things that happens when the player is overloaded, right? Like this handles the overload stat, the vital, but this handles what actually happens when overload occurs, right? So I should have called it overcharge and overload, right? When you are at max overcharge, you become overloaded, but that's whatever. It's a nomenclature thing. Then this overload observer, let's just call it an overload sequence, just to keep things consistent. Overload sequence. And so should it have a reference? No, it shouldn't, because I just add that through the overload thing. Hold on, no, this is right for turning into a mess. If the overload bar, essentially, right, the vital, notifies that an overload has been reached. It feels weird for this to have a method to notify that and then to have this guy manually ping everyone, when instead this method could, this invoke could be the thing that pings everyone. Which would mean that we don't need this. Wait, I don't... Yeah, let's just have those, all of those things be handled by the same thing. Don't save this. I don't want the overload sequence. I need you to go. And right. So then this should also handle like a timer for the overload, right? So when we're overloaded, it's gonna be like, what's our overload time? How much time do we spend in the overload state, overloaded state, right? And then this script handles that. It feels weird to have that handled here, though. If this was Godot, I know exactly how I would want to do it, though. Is the thing, that's the issue. Like, I'm kind of struggling to think of the way that Unity wants me to do things, right? Which is the entity component system that is the basis of what Unity is. Just don't get used to thinking of things in that way, right? But being that the case is maybe... yeah, like should this overload vital handle also the timing of this? I think it's not unreasonable for it to. Okay, let's do that then. So we're gonna add another parameter that is load overload time, the amount that we spend on overload once we have become overloaded, right? And then we're gonna need a variable that is a float timer. And so this timer starts at 0. Then I mean, I think it does by default just because that's how floats are, but just making it explicit, you know? Yeah, we're also going to need to have a boolean that tells us whether we are an overload or not. So overloaded, which is false. And so when we trigger the overload, we notify every single bit that is subscribed to this event that we're in overload mode and they have to take some action. And then we're going to set overloaded to true. We're gonna send the current charge to 0, and we're gonna set the, not the charge, the current, whatchamacallit, the current overload meter to 0, so that this isn't triggering every frame. And then we're going to set the timer to the amount of time of overload, right? So then, all this is what the fixed update does when we are not overloaded, right? That's when it does all this thing. When we are overloaded, it instead reduces the timer by the amount of time that has passed, Then checks if the timer is smaller than 0. And if it is, that means that we're done with the overload. So set the timer as equal to 0. Just so that it serves as a more consistent indicator. This actually doesn't change anything. Decide that we are not overloaded anymore. And tell everybody that may want to know that we have finished the overload. Right, so if you're stunned, if I wanted to make it so that the player is stunned, then that just works like that, right? And then I have to make this as a Unity event, so just... And also just call them on overload start and on overload end, because that makes it easier to read. And let's make sure that we're calling them in the same order, just in case it makes a difference, which it shouldn't. I think call false as a function, that's not a thing. False timer, the current is already set to 0, so that doesn't matter. The timer is set to 0. Right. I hate summer, by the way, just in case you're wondering. It's just too hot. And it's not that hot actually. It's not that hot, but I already hate it. That's the issue. You're like, yeah, drink more water, but then you have to pee more often, and I don't like this. I want to get up from the computer. I need to stare at my screen at all times, every second of every day. Otherwise, I'm surely will shrivel and die. Don't you understand? Every second, every millisecond that I am not actively staring at a synthetic LED light, my coding abilities degrade. They slowly shrivel and die just like my fingers. So yeah, that's why I hate summer. So that should work for the timer, right? So I just have to set it like to a time. Let's say 5. Let's have it so that an overload start, I don't know, what's something that I can call really easily. Yeah, what happens if I kill this? If I disable this? It does nothing. Okay. What happens if I make this black and then I disable it? Yep, okay. So let's have it so that, just for testing purposes, so that it calls this global light on overload begin, and it enables it, sets active to true, and then when the overload ends, it sets active to false. So like that, and then we should see, overload time. Let's make it 1 second. So whenever the overload reaches top, we should see the overload bar empty, and then for 1 second, everything will turn black, all the sprites, and then once that's done, everything will go back to normal, and the charge will become able to, and that's how we'll know that the messages are working. That's the expected behavior. Everything black, everything back to normal. surprising that the overload charge is set to normal only after. But I think I know why that is. Yeah, it's because I'm not calling the bar. I'm not updating the bar at the right time. The thing is, I can't put this here because then that'll. Unless I put this here, I guess. But yeah, first check if we're at overload capacity. Then deal with the speed. And then update everything. Sure, I mean... But I don't actually need to deal with the speed if we are at overload capacity, because then that'll just trigger an overload, so... The speed doesn't matter at that point, so let's just call this an else if. It is some dumb micro-optimization, it doesn't actually affect anything. And sure, I'm saying that a lot today, that things don't affect anything and then I'm doing them anyway. Well, it does, the code is neater, I just mean that for the scope of this project, that's not gonna be a thing that really I should be worrying much about, right? Yes, another bar should be emptying itself. Yeah, immediately. Okay. Okay, so that's good. That's good. Okay, so now we have to notify other game systems of this overload, right? So that we can properly deal with it, right? I think that a bunch of them are going to just have methods to specifically deal with this. So player charge, let's do yeah, we're going to need to create two methods that are for what happens when the overload begins and for what happens when the overload ends. So let's just call it disable. No, disable is already a Unity method. Or rather, it gets confused with other Unity methods. It's better not to use them. Then let's call it freeze. Freeze. Stop. Begin overload. I don't want it to be explicitly tied to the overload, though, is the thing. Because these may be methods that are useful for other things. Stop. Disable. Block. Block charge. Block charges. Yeah, I like that. Block charges. Block charges, because charges are not going to be able to happen, well, when this begins, right? So just begin blocking the charges. So let's have another variable. Bool that is blocked equals true, right? And the idea is if blocked, it shouldn't be equal to true, it should be equal to false. If blocked, return. And then here, actually no, I do want to be able to end charges. Charges shouldn't be able to happen at all if we're blocked, but you know. If blocked, return. When you begin blocking the charges, then you set blocked to true. And then whatever charges we have to disconnect all of them. So we have to go through the active charges dictionary and iterate through it. Can I iterate through a dictionary? Is that a thing that can be done? It should, surely, right? For each key value pair string entry in my dictionary, do something with entry point value entry dot key. Alright. Yeah, but I don't really want that. Alright. Alright, that works. So let's just copy it. So then we go for each key value pair string. No, that's not string. In my case, it's script charger float entry in active charges. So actually, let's just for each active charge in active charges, right? In the list of active charges. And then I go active charges point remove. Hold on. Okay, now I'm iterating through a thing while disconnecting from thing, while removing things from it. That's not a thing that I should ever do, is it? Actually, isn't there a way to just empty a dictionary? Just you can do that. I still need to iterate through it, but then I don't have to do the remove thing. How do I empty a dictionary in C#? Oh, it's just clear? Alright. That's easy. Yeah, so I just clear it after. But then I also have to like make sure to disconnect all the cables. So active charges. Yeah, find the cable manager. Active. Yeah, active charge point. Point. Is it the key or is it the value? It's the key. Point key. Yeah, so I take the cable manager and I tell it, hey, disconnect this cable. Which cable? The sorry, what? Oh, that's something that you were saying. So yeah, so disconnect the script charges. So yeah, disconnect the key. Why is it uppercase? That's weird. Disconnect the key. Disconnect from this key, but from this key's transform, because that's the thing that needs. So disconnect all the yeah, go through the dictionary, take all the cables, all the transforms of each script charger. Tell the cable manager to disconnect from all of those, and then clear the dictionary. So set us back to 0, essentially, right? Then when we're blocked, we do not begin charges, right? Wait, when does this get called? Is it the player movement? That would be weird. Yeah, no, it's not. There should be a trigger enter somewhere. Oh, the charger. It's the charger that does it. Yeah, okay, so the charger doesn't care, right? It just sends the signal to charge, and then player charge knows, oh, when I'm blocked, I ignore that, right? So yeah, so it doesn't matter, just disconnect from it. So you blocked all the charges, right? You decided that we're blocked. You went through the list of all the ones that are currently active. You disconnected them. You told the cable manager to disconnect from them. Then you set the active charges to clear. Then you also have to remove the fill speed, right? So that we go back to the normal fill speed. Actually, fill speed should be 0. No, fill speed should be back to the default. Yeah, fill speed should be back to the default. So we have to go back to the fill speed. What is the default fill speed? I don't think I can just get it back. Fill speed minus equal active charge point value. Just get the number, remove it from it, and then that'll done with all of the ones in the dictionary. That will put us back to the default fill speed, right? Then clear the dictionary. But after that, you also have to make sure that your charge is 0, right? So, and then it won't go higher for until we're done with the blocking of the charges. So unblock charges, and this should be super easy. This is just block equals true, and we don't need to do any. No, actually we do. Hold on, thinking. Yeah, we do, and it's kind of an issue that we do. Okay. I'm going to be right back. Give me just a second. How long have I been muted? I'm really stupid. How long have I been muted? Oh, for fuck's sake. Thanks for telling me. Oh, goddamn. Well, to be fair, nothing interesting happened. I didn't say anything interesting, so... I should have realized by how the music wasn't lowering volume whenever. It must have been like 20 minutes, because I know when I muted. How did I not notice? I'm so stupid. You're really locked in. I wish I was. I've been struggling. Oh, fuck. It was a good thing this happened in front of 2 viewers instead of, like, you know, like imagine if I had a real following, right? But for real, thanks for telling me. Right, so... I guess I should explain just for the sake of completeness. Yeah, the issue that I'm having is that I'm trying to get back from the overload state, and it seems to not only not have worked, but also to have broken the detection on the cables, right? Maybe I would have let you know sooner. That's true. That's also true. So yeah, so you see, I go to the overcharge, I overload, right? The connection stops, right? Everything works. But then after 1 second passes, it should reconnect me to this thing. And it doesn't. And not only does it not do that, it also now fails to connect me even on entering the trigger. I have no idea what that could be about. So let's first of all check that the overload is actually even unblock charger. Blocks the charges, unblocks the charges, right? When you unblock the charges, blocked should be false. Okay, so that's the reason why it's not reconnecting. Oh, and this also doesn't have a... Okay, you know what? Maybe it was just that. Let's hope that it was just that. But it's a good thing, because honestly, just... You didn't get to hear me despair. So maybe we can call that a good thing. That's just what coding is, though. Despair. That's what fuels the process. And then... Oh, yeah, no, it just works then. Yeah, you overloaded for 1 second, then the connection reset. Does it handle multiple connections well, though? That's what I want to know. Like this, and if I put it here, so that I can be connected to both of them at the same time. It does. Hell yeah. Okay, so the next thing that I would want to do is get the health system working. I wonder how well I can just do that. Okay. Because it's very similar to the charge system, right? That's why I made them both based off of the same subclass. So I wanted to work like Vampire Survivors, where rather than just taking discrete hits, you have like damage over time that depends on how many and which enemies are in contact with you, right? So, being that the case, I probably want... Well, what I actually want is to not be doing this. I probably want an object, a 2D object that's just for testing. Let's make it a little circle. And we're gonna make him red because that's the color of being very angry at things. We'll put it here. And then we give it a collider to go collider 3D. We give it a rigid body. And this is just call it kinematic for now. And then this is going to have a script that says that it has just create a script for it. Script. Damage dealer. Right, so damage dealer. The first thing and most important that it does is it holds a number. So float, just damage, the damage that it deals, right? And this has to be a public thing, so, or rather I have to be able to edit it. The thing that I'm pondering is whether it should work the same as a player charge, so keeping a dictionary of the current active damage sources to keep track of them that way. Or if it should check them every frame, right? Let's say it checks them every frame. Because this is just a number. For the player charge, it's worth it to keep a dictionary because I need the cables so that I can delete them and they need to correspond to each other. For the enemy, not really, because there's not going to be like a particular, like you can see that you're touching it because you're touching it, you know? It's just a number and I can calculate that every frame. It's very easy, it's just adding or subtracting from it. So let's do it that way. So if I go to the health, and I go to if I go to the health, then I should be able to have function that is void on collision stay 2D. I think that's a function that is real and exists and not just something that I'm imagining. On collision stay 2D. Yes? But it's a mono behavior? Are you sure? Scripting API. Is there an on collision stay? Collision. Yeah, just on collision. There is, okay. It's part of the collision class and not a collider. Right, so the collision. Okay, so it's taking something where it's not. It's collision. Actually, is this? No, because this is 3D. I need the bridge body 2D, which should be the same, but sometimes it's not. On collision. On collision. You have that? What do you mean? collision, but what do you mean? Where's the collision enter then? Is it here? Why does it work so different between one and the other? Okay, but it exists. That's what I want to do. Why is it part of a collision? It sends a collision to the other. So collider to the, it sends a collision to the type thing that I'm gonna call collision. And then within this collision to the, I want to get collider. So I want to get the collider, right? That's what I want to get. Actually, no, that's not what I want to get. There's probably one that's better. The game object, yeah. So, you go on the collision. You go on there on the game object corresponding to this collision, and on that game object, you go to I want to get the component that is the charger. And if that exists, or rather, it's not the charger, it's the damage dealer. Damage script. And if that exists, then we know that it's a thing that this thing can take damage from, so we need to deal with that. So if damage script is not null, then I access that damage script, and I take damage script point damage, right? I take the amount of damage that it needs, and I add it to currently taking damage, which is in vitals, it's the fill speed. So fill speed minus equals the amount of damage that deals, and that's gonna make it so that the bar starts emptying at that rate, and then that's gonna happen for every one of them, but it's going to reset at the beginning of the next frame, which should be the physics frame, because boy, I fucked that up. And then this doesn't inherit from vitals, so rip vitals. And I don't need to set these because this is just the same as the parent function. And then, yeah, in overload, yeah, this has to be an override. And then I gotta call the base, so... Override... No, what do I mean? No, I don't need this. Yeah, this is what should be override. Override the fixed update, so that before it does whatever it needs to do, it sets the fill speed to 0. No, after it does that. And then, so do everything that you would normally do, but then after you do that, you set the fill speed to 0. And that makes it so that it's reset every frame. And so that makes it so that the cumulative calculation of the on-collision stays when they detect the damage dealers is per frame. It's gonna recalculate every frame, which doesn't matter because it's just subtracting. And it's only on active collision, so this get component is not gonna be run like more than, let's say, 7 times a frame. And I forgot a semicolon somewhere. Damage dealer. Yep, in the damage dealer, this should have a semicolon. Where? In health fixed update. Oh. So wait, so what did I put here? Internal, right, so let's just make it internal as well. And then damage dealer damage is inaccessible due to protection level, which just makes sense. It should actually just be public. And it should be the case now that you lose a certain amount of health while you're in contact with this red circle and stop losing it as soon as you leave contact. And it died. What happened? Bunch of errors. The health, it doesn't know what its bar is. Okay, it's the life meter. It doesn't know what its max parameter is. It should be 100. Its fill speed should be 0. Hold on, why do I have 2 charge bars? What's going on? Yeah, you don't need this anymore. You also don't need this. No, this is vitals, never mind, Jesus. This, you don't need this, and you also don't need this. You also don't need this or this. Actually, you don't need any of that shit. Because the damage amount is still 0, isn't it? No, it doesn't even have the damage script, actually. I keep doing that where I make scripts and then forget to attach them to anything. Where is it? Damage. Damage. D. Yeah. And then let's make it just 10. That's high enough number to notice. Yeah, you lose health. And the idea is, if I'm touching more than one simultaneously, that should make it so that I lose more health, right? Or lose health faster. This is 1, and this is 2. Noticeably faster, and it just works, man. It just works. It works great, actually. Okay, so we have some things to do. We have to make like a game over sequence and make it so that we can actually kill enemies, and make it so that fuck, we have so much to do, and also make it so that you maybe have different weapons or that so that you can upgrade them, you know, give some sense of progression to the game, right? Make enemies, figure out enemy movement, make it so that enemies spawn. I really have a lot of work to do, but I think this is good enough for today, to be honest. It's a Sunday, I don't want to work a lot. Although Sundays are the days where I have a lot of time to work on this. Well, whatever. It's like I said, I have... Like, I want to try hard for this because it's the one... Of all the things that I have to do for uni, it's the one that actually is making a game. So it's the one that I want to try a bit harder on. But the truth is, I don't have to. I have a good grade in the first grade for this, you know? I could just get a 3.7 and still make it. I could get a 2 actually and still make it, so long as there's not like a 1. So I really shouldn't even be putting it, like, I could just hand this over and it wouldn't be a good grade, but it would be enough to pass the class, right? So that's always a bit relaxing. I also need to implement graphics and audio, I think, but I definitely won't be trying very hard with the audio. So yeah, that's gonna be it for me on this specifically, but I did want to play games after. So I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna be right back while I decide what to do, what to play, and then I'm gonna be back with something different. So, yeah, just gonna be right back. Give me just a bit.